Welcome to Spiritual Insurgency. I'm Jason Lupo, sitting here with my co-host today, Aaron Lujan.
Hey, free Palestine from the river to the sea. See my shirt, free Palestine. What's up, Jason?
Man, did I see you at one of those rallies this last
I
weekend?
was not. I support Larry King. I support LeBron James. I'm all for Kings.
Well, we have a show for you today. This is there's so much going on in the world today that how could we ever report on all of it
Yeah,
and not have fun doing it?
gotta have fun, guys. As the world crumbles, we gotta laugh a little.
So I'm gonna start with this. There's this guy holding a sign. It says, "Side note: Generally, if a country were ruled by a king, a nationwide protest called No Kings would not be allowed."
Fair enough.
I think that's perfect the way that I put it up. Um, Anna Paulina Luna, raising concerns before the rally, said, "Do not attend the No Kings protests." I have screenshots circulating that leftists are going to wear MAGA gear in an attempt to cause chaos, claiming that some of the protesters were pretending to be MAGA people.
Fair theory. It happened on J6.
Sure did. That was the FBI, though.
Yeah, but that's how that works. That's par for the course.
Trump's hilarious response on No Kings protest planned on his birthday says, "I have to go through hell." That's from the Economic Times. On Thursday, President Trump said he doesn't feel like royalty when asked for his response on the No Kings rallies planned across the country in protest of his administrative policies. "I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved," Trump said. The king would have never had the California mandate. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and say, "Fellows, you have got to pull this off," Trump said, referring to House Speaker Mike Johnson. "And after years, we get it done. No, we're not kings." I would agree with Trump in a large capacity on the fact that Trump does not appear anything like monarchy. By the way, if we had a monarchy, every single American would be out for the army parade that took place.
We would be
because it would be required.
like Kim Jong-un's North Korea.
Correct. Yeah, these people are out of their damn minds. That's all I'm going to say.
But let's talk about Walmart, though. Did you find the connection between the No King protests and Walmart?
No.
So the heiress of Walmart paid for this. All of the No King propaganda literature says paid for by the Walton Group. I don't quote me on this. Look it up. Thought that was interesting. If that's true, why would you think the Walmart people would want to fund this? I mean, is this big labor move? Is this? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Paid for by the Waltons.
I don't know. I the whole thing is just kind of a nightmare to me. It's just no. At the same point, do I agree with spending anywhere between 25 and 42 million on a parade? Probably not.
I actually think what they bought yesterday for the No King protest is an insurance policy, and allow me to explain. So I do have sincere concerns about Trump centralizing power and violating the Constitution. I'm not going to get into it now, but I have sincere beliefs. If you disagree with me, if you would like to know why, we can hit me up on X. If you have the American left and the blue-haired progressives rallying around this idea of we need to stop Trump from centralizing power and becoming a king, that immediately is a signal to the right that you're to get behind Trump and you're not to criticize Trump for that reason. You're supposed to be diametrically opposed to the left. So it, I think, secures that in terms of an insurance policy, secures that the American right and MAGA never challenges Trump on his centralization of power. Thoughts?
I don't know as though I'd go that far. I don't know as though I'd number one, even though I see, I don't agree with everything that Trump does. But do I think that we're anywhere near the part where we have centralized power enough that we have a huge cause of concern? Not at this present moment. What I am concerned about is the precedent that's been set for the last 20, 24, or 30 years. The ruling by executive order that's taken place on both sides by the president. It's not just Trump. It's Biden. It's Obama. Like the fact that we are ruling by executive order, and there's so many executive orders that are taking place, it does cause a lot of concern for me. And we saw the governorships do it throughout COVID crisis too, under the mask and the guise of a public health order and a public health crisis. They took the liberty to be dictators, and the governors did it a hell of a lot more than Biden and Trump did.
The governors are the real kings.
Yeah, 100%. So do I think that we need to keep it in the forefront and be concerned? Yes. Do I think that it dictates the need for a no king rally? No.
No, it doesn't.
I don't think we're at this point. And plus, if you actually think that we're about to have a monarchy in this country, stop trying to remove people's guns.
Yeah.
It's the same people that are showing up to the no king rally are the people that want to willfully give up their gun.
That's a
Where
good
if
point.
we ever do turn into a dictatorship or a monarchy, you ain't going to have a gun to fight back, you idiots.
The gun is a check against monarchy and authoritarianism.
100%. But anyways, moving on. Israel, United States, this tension that I think is being not reported on nearly as probably as it should be. I believe that Trump is probably not very happy with Israel at this point. That would be my take on the whole thing. Made it quite clear that the United States was not interested in participating in Israel's attack on Iran. We've known that for a couple of days now. Israel goes ahead and attacks Iran anyways, and of course, somehow the United States is going to end up being involved in this in some way, shape, or form. But if we just look at the headlines coming down through here, Al Jazeera says solid evidence. Iran says U.S. bears responsibility for Israel's aggression. NBC News says Trump vetoed Israeli proposal to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. Times of Israel report Israel asked U.S. to join military campaign against Iran, but U.S. rejected requests. Fox News, Israel's actions against Iran create strategic opportunities for U.S. and nuclear talks. New York Times has an opinion piece: a U.S. war with Iran would be a catastrophe. CBS News reports Trump administration told U.S. allies in Middle East about Israel's Iran strike in advance. It's kind of it's a very interesting dynamic from a standpoint of the United States' involvement, and it kind of seems like Israel said, "Screw you, we don't care what you want to do. We're going to go attack Iran anyways."
Well, all we need is a false flag terror attack or a legitimate terror attack domestically in the United States. Blame it on Iran for the United States to join Israel in the war. I mean, isn't that kind of how World War II came down when Japan was attacked?
I mean, that's kind of like how every war that the United States has been involved in has kind of come about.
Right. Deniable plausibility, right? We're not aggressors. We're not going to jump in. Oh, you attacked us. Now that there's this cop. Well, we got to get in now. We got to get involved now. We just let in tens of thousands of people on the terror watch list through the southern border these last couple of years.
So where I'm confused is I don't believe that the United States had stalled out in a nuclear conversation with Iran prior to this incident.
I don't know where the conversations were. Where were they?
I think that the United States was still actively negotiating with Iran.
That was my impression, yes.
What I don't understand is Israel is being land blasted by every single side of their country, and they choose to start another war. The first time that they've been an aggressor and been the first to act.
That's debatable, but
in a very long time, if not for 10 to 20 decades.
I'm rolling with your point that
so you're being attacked on all sides of your country already, and you decide to go launch an attack on Iran for reasons that don't really seem like this is necessarily the right timing to go about doing that when the United States is still in nuclear talks with Iran.
No, we've obviously entered the phase of hyper chaos, hyper war, hyper economic collapse. We have entered the eye of the tiger, the Rocky Balboa moment for the world. I mean, this is it. This is it, guys. I mean, everything is coming to a head. If you don't feel this spiritually, you're not spiritually awake. If you're asleep, I mean, to the natural, it's obvious that we are entering a new phase in geopolitics. Jason, would you agree? When you take into consideration the preemptive attack on Israel, at the same time we're having domestic chaos and protests in the streets and financial collapse, we are in a unique time as a country and as a world. Would you agree?
This is a very interesting time globally. Um, my point that I was gonna make is I don't know what kind of ally has zero respect for their closest allies' wishes when it comes to a strike that you're about to plan. I have a problem with that.
I do
And
too.
so you've brought me to the opposite side for once here, because I honestly do not believe that Israel's actions and bombing Iran and the timing that they did, with a Trump administration that made it very clear that they wanted nothing to do with this attack, and yet you go and do it anyways, does not seem like a very close ally to me.
For the record, Jason Lupo is not an ideologue. He's an open-minded, fair-minded guy. No, I sincerely respect that, Jason, because so many of the evangelical American right and MAGA are so brainwashed into this. They're the greatest ally. Israel. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. You guys, this event in the last 48 hours revealed two very important revelations that should forever change your position on your support for Israel, especially as an American patriot who loves Jesus. Number one, the assassination of the Iranian generals revealed that they're able to strategically hit a building with precision. Look it up. I hope, Jason, you can pull up the image of the building where the Iranian supreme leaders were located and how Israel strategically killed those individuals without creating other collateral damage within that building. So it completely turns on its head this argument that I've been hearing for years about, well, we have to sacrifice thousands of innocent Palestinians and children and women in hospitals and schools because Hamas are cowards and evil, and they bait Israel into these situations where they give Israel no other chance but to kill everybody else. Sorry, all those American-made, American-paid-for bombs killed a bunch of kids in Palestine, many of them Christian. And what do we have? We have Christians in America cheering it on. Dead Christian children killed with our tax dollars. Yay, Israel. So, number one, knock it off. There's no longer any more excuse on Israel has to kill the entire neighborhood because there were terrorists hiding in the basement. Number two, Israel has no right, from a UN perspective, from a biblical moral code, from any perspective, to preemptively strike a country. Israel posed no threat. I'm sorry, Iran posed no threat to Israel. What was the reason that Israel cited for the preemptive strike? That they had reached 80% level of enrichment of uranium. Guess what, dude? Iran is a sovereign free country. And guess what, Israel? You guys have nuclear weapons as well. So what? You're the only one that gets to have nuclear weapons, but Iran cannot, and the United States? Who gets to decide this? Iran is a sovereign nation with a right to self-determination, and if they had the brains, which they do, these people are incredibly intelligent, the Persian people. The Iranian culture is an ancient culture. This is Babylon. This is the wrong dog to mess with.
Well, and we're also getting to a point where, Iran warns U.S. backer of Israel will be held fully accountable. This idea that just because you don't put boots on the ground means that you're not somehow involved in a fight, and neglecting the fact that a proxy war is a war, and if you're funding another country's battle against another country, you're involved in that war. Not to mention the U.S. ended up downing missiles fired at Israel from U.S. air defense systems and from the naval destroyer. And so the U.S. is still involved in defending Israel even though Israel said we're going to go ahead and attack them, even though we know that you don't want to. It's like it's mind-boggling to me how I, I, I I've always felt like Israel, they are a sovereign nation, just like Iran, fight their own battles, right? We allowed them to fight their own battle. We didn't get heavily involved in the conflict with Hamas. I don't know whether or not everything that you just said was accurate. I have to look it up. But in terms of them being able to specifically target areas of a building. But what I do want to say is that I don't know as though I will ever get on board with this strike.
You can't.
And with this war breaking out.
You can't. You can't. I mean, for starters, it's a violation of sovereignty under the UN Charter, Article 2, Section 4. Iran's missile drone strikes directly violate the prohibition on the use of force under that UN Charter. And if you want to look at Zechariah 12:9 or Joel 3:2, nations that unjustly attack Israel historically, it says face divine judgment, but that's a different definition of Israel. The point I'm making is that all precedent from an international legal standpoint, and I don't necessarily respect legal international law, but it's important to mention because a lot of the architects of our system do, and the narrative in the media is that international law must be respected. So I think we can make a strong point, a condemnation of Israel because they're violating the laws that they purport to obey and to adhere to. So that's for number one. And then I know there's going to be criticism of my statement. The counter argument, and I want to address it, is that, well, Iran is a state sponsor of terror. They're funding Hamas, they're funding Hezbollah, and they're funding the Houthis. Irrelevant. Israel struck Iran first. Number two, you could easily argue that the funding of Hamas and Hezbollah is an act of defense from an aggressive Israel, an aggressor being Israel. And that argument just got a whole lot stronger in the last 48 hours when they showed their cards and they preemptively striked as the aggressor on the world stage for everybody to see. So that's that. So for those that want to argue with me and say, well, Iran should have been bombed because they're state sponsors of terror, Israel was doing its job. No, not at all. So these are war crimes, Jason. This is probably going to bring in Russia. I mean, at the end of the day, there's an alliance between Russia and Iran. There's this access. And then, of course, the United States having to support Israel. So what's going to be coming into question in these next days and weeks is what will the American people do? What will the position of the American people be on whether or not the United States should support their greatest ally or throw that into the trash?
I think we don't have an answer to that at this point. I think we'd be speculating. I think that we're about to find out.
Yeah, it's pure speculation at this point, what's going to happen. But I do know that there's a strong contingent on the American right that's been brainwashed thoroughly into believing that Israel does no harm and they must be protected at all costs because the biblical definition of Israel is the nation state, which is not theologically correct.
Which we need to have a further conversation on that. But anyways, we're moving on for the present moment. Suspected Minnesota lawmaker assassin Vance Bolter captured. This took place last night. Suspect wore police-like uniform during planned attack that left 2 dead and 2 seriously wounded. Here's a Facebook from the older millennial. Both lawmakers voted against giving taxpayer-funded health care to illegal criminal aliens. 2 Minnesota Democrat lawmakers were shot last night in their homes by a man impersonating an officer. State Representative Melissa Hortman and State Senator John Hoffman both recently voted against their party, with Hortman supporting repeal of free health care for illegals and Hoffman joining Republicans in the Senate to pass it. So 2 lawmakers in Minnesota that helped repeal health care for illegal aliens who went against party lines in order to do that were shot and killed by what appears to be a Democrat. And there is some news out there that says, oh, no, he's not a Democrat. I'm not believing that. He looks like he was involved in this attack, was a Democrat, probably did so on behalf of the Democratic Party, Probably did so like most of the Clinton assassinations took place.
Yeah, I rode the short bus to school and got primarily C's throughout my education. So let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So we have two Democratic lawmakers who went against their party and voted to repeal health care for illegals, and then they get killed.
Yep.
So I guess my question now is does that mean that this was like a really important issue and this had to be like an example had to be made? Do you think this was like what is the motivation behind this is what I'm trying to understand. Like what was so why did the killer feel like they had to unalive these people?
I don't know as though we know very much information at this point, other than the fact that now as of last night, the suspect has been arrested. So we haven't gotten too far down. This is obviously still a developing story. Brooklyn Park Police Department Chief Mark Bruley said there's no question that this is the largest manhunt in state history. They definitely went all out in trying to find this guy who shot these two lawmakers, killing one of the lawmakers and her husband.
What does it say about me, Jason, that when I hear these stories, and I think I speak for a lot of our listeners, what does it say about us when we hear these stories and we immediately think false flag, we immediately think Fed, we immediately think conspiracy, we immediately think planned and operated, not organic, not lone wolf?
So I don't know as though I immediately think that.
I do.
I know you do. We've got a hardcore conspiracy theorist, and then we've got a moderate conspiracy theorist in me.
Yes.
Because I can easily get to that point, but I do try to keep an open mind up until that point. And I could see that, does this appear like a false flag off the bat? It does not to me.
Did you see what was in the killer's car?
No.
No king. Flyers.
Well, I mean, why are we shocked?
That alone is why I immediately went to conspiracy land, because anytime they leave breadcrumbs to purport a particular narrative, historically, Monday Morning Quarterback, we find out that it was a Fed operation, or at least leads to highly believe one. So it just looks and reeks like the congresswoman that was shot in the head in Arizona during the time that they were challenging Second Amendment issues. And then she became the spokesperson for the repeal of the Second Amendment. It just always looks like it's incredibly agenda driven.
I mean, I can get down with a lot of that stuff. I don't know as though does this look like it's a planned attack that's probably more coordinated than a lone wolf guy that's just pissed off? 100%. Do I believe at this point that it's the feds that did it? No, I don't. Do I believe that there's someone in the Democrat Party that has chosen off these people? Probably.
So let's leave the speculation and the conspiracy stuff aside, and let's talk about what is provable and what's going to be obvious. What is going to be the obvious fallout of this? In America, we're now picking off state legislators because they vote the wrong way. I mean, that's Banana Republic level, Sudan, Uganda level politics. Would you not agree?
Yeah, so, I don't know their vacancy committee laws or their vacancy laws in Minnesota. In some state, like in the state of Colorado, because we still have a caucus system, we still have an assembly system, the people that belong to the vacancy committee, which is made up of precinct leaders, etc., would choose the replacement of a legislator that dies while in service here in Colorado. In some states, the governor just appoints who takes over. In the state of Colorado, if a vacancy committee cannot come up with somebody to take over, the governor has the ability to appoint. The governor has to appoint somebody from the same party as the member that was killed. So in this case, I guess there is a chance, without me doing a ton of research, Tim Walz could be responsible for filling those vacancies in his state legislature.
The coach, Tim Walz?
No, Tim Walz, the governor.
Oh,
yeah.
But we're not talking about the running mate for Kamala, are we?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was a.
That's
They used to
governor.
They used to call him the coach. He was a wrestling.
Oh, was he coach?
He was a wrestling coach. It was a joke. Like the coach. Never mind.
He looks like a happy fellow. I can tell you that much. But
a happy fellow. He probably eats well. Yeah, I think that it's a sad day in American political history. I mean, we're now descended into, obviously decorum is way out the window at this point, right?
I mean, yes.
Yeah. When we start assassinating our brethren, we've crossed the line probably 10 miles back.
So in the state of Minnesota, there would be a special election that takes place.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to send a message to state legislators and senators and anybody that holds political office that this is there's a work hazard in politics now. There's a serious work hazard that could lead to death. We are now at a place in American history where, we've been infiltrated. There's trillions of dollars at play. We've lost God in all of this. We're no longer under God's authority, clearly, if you look at the fruits of this country. So now that we've basically told God, get out of our country, we're going to do things the way we want to do it. These are the natural consequences of a nation who's no longer under the spiritual authority of Almighty God. Because this obviously at one point was a country that bent the knee and honored the Lord. It's the reason why we prospered for so long. And now that we've kicked God out of the public square, these are the results. These are the consequences.
100%. Do you have anything else to add? We've covered so much today.
We have a really juicy show launching on Saturday that people need to attend. And let's just kind of leave it at that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, this has been Spiritual Insurgency. Have a great day. God bless.
Peace.